camped outside an overcrowded hospital, COVID-19 patients fighting for their lives. The highly contagious Delta variant has swept through Indonesia, overwhelming the health system and leaving families in a desperate hunt for oxygen for stricken relatives. I used to refill at a kiosk near home, but there's no supply there, so I came here. The government is struggling to fill the gap.
Oksigen pun sebenarnya,
the demand for oxygen has increased 3 to 4-fold, and that's hampered distribution. There is indeed a shortage, and we have asked the 5 biggest oxygen suppliers to dedicate 100% of their production to medical needs. To stop the spread of the coronavirus, the government has imposed a partial lockdown. It also wants to step up vaccination efforts, but with doses in short supply and only around 5% of the population fully vaccinated, another shortage is making itself felt. To cope with the rising death toll, farmland across the country is hastily being converted into makeshift graveyards.
Determined to help in any way that they can, these bikers have taken to escorting ambulances to clear a path for them in heavy traffic. This as Indonesia battles a record surge in coronavirus infections, with almost 30,000 new cases and over 500 deaths on Monday. Up to 200 people a day are being buried in this field, now a cemetery for the victims of coronavirus.
Kaget sekali, gak nyangka, waduh, padahal baru seminggu loh ini kan.
The Red Cross warns the country is on the brink of catastrophe as hospitals are struggling to cope and have started treating patients in tents, while less than 10% of the country is fully vaccinated. People here queued for hours to fill up oxygen cylinders for their seriously ill family members amid a shortage.
Di tempat saya kan dekat ada, sekarang dari kemarin pusatnya udah, ya ada yang lagi sakit.
Over the weekend, dozens of patients died after the central supply of oxygen ran out at a hospital in Yogyakarta. The government announced that all domestic oxygen production will be reserved for medical use, and it will also be importing supplies. To control the spread of the disease, Jakarta imposed a number of restrictions across over 20 provinces and has pledged to inject almost 11 billion euros extra in its fight against the virus.
Kalau dikawal dengan anak-anaknya, ya, kami merasa sangat senang sekali karena melerai kemacetan di daerah Kota Depok. Karena daerah Kota Depok itu jalanan sangat padat merayap, terutama daerah Sawangan sampai ke Margonda. Itu sangat merayap sekali. Kalau tidak dilerai dengan anak-anaknya, ya, wah, kami tidak tahu deh apa yang terjadi. Mungkin kami juga mengirim pasien atau mengantar jenazah mungkin agak telat-telat.
orders to divert all supplies for medical needs and says it will begin imports if needed. COVID-19 infections have risen for 10 days in a row as Indonesia battles one of the worst epidemics in Asia. For more, here's our regional correspondent Philip Sherwood reporting.
Indonesia particularly is just a terrible hotspot at the moment. The International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent have warned of an impending catastrophe. Someone might say it's already there. You know, there's no oxygen supplies to be had in many parts of this huge archipelago. There were reports of more than 30 people dying in one hospital alone in a major city because of lack of oxygen. The authorities are trying to import it from neighboring countries. The domestic oxygen industry is at full tilt, and the worst case scenario is a sort of repeat of the sorts of awful scenes we saw in India recently. But not just Indonesia. You know, Malaysia is in a full lockdown, pretty full lockdown in many parts at the moment. Thailand's numbers are at record highs, and they're all struggling with a combination of the arrival of the Delta variant and these slow rollouts of vaccines. A lot of these countries were not too badly hit last year at the height of the pandemic in other parts of the world, but they've either been slow off the mark or they've just been logistical problems, financial problems getting vaccines in. So we have this very sort of potent combination here at the moment of this particularly contagious variant kicking in, and yes, a slow stage of vaccines.